going to open up in part one with a discussion of the right-hand nails, how to use the right-hand nails, how to shape them, how to take care of them. You've probably noticed on my right hand that I make quite extensive use of them. You also might notice the difference in tone. When you play the pieces, you might find that it sounds different than when I play the piece. The main reason for that is that I have nails in my right hand. Now, if you don't have any at this point, if you've just been cutting them, as in the left hand, your left hand nails should be short. However, if up to this point your right hand nails are the same, you could gradually just begin to grow them a little bit. So this might not apply to you right at this very moment, but keep it in mind. And as you grow your nails, you can start incorporating some of the things I'll be discussing. First of all, it's important that the nails aren't too long. Some people, when they decide to use right-hand nails, grow them very long. You'll find not only are they very difficult to take care of, but it also makes it fairly difficult to play, I feel. So I'll show you approximately what length I think they should be. And of course, as in everything to do with technique and things like that, it's somewhat an individual matter. Depending on the shape of your nails and things like that, you might want them a bit longer and a bit shorter. So there'll be a certain amount of experimenting involved. And as we go along, I'll try to help you with that. A few pointers, a few things to listen for, and different things to note when you are shaping your nails. And based on those principles then, depending on how long you want your nails, if you follow those principles, it should work out okay. If you look, notice, basically we don't have to worry about this hand at all, or this finger at all. We just need the nails on the finger and on the thumb. If you want to grow a nail on your pinky, that's fine. It's not really necessary since we don't use that finger. If you look from this side, you'll see that the nail just comes over the fingertip just slightly. And that's a good guideline. It should be perhaps a 1/16 of an inch or so, just above the tip of the finger. If you go from this side, you can't really judge as well because some people's nail, the white part, starts a bit lower. So if I say, well, 1/4 of an inch of white showing, that can mean something totally different from one person to the next. So if you look from this way, you look at the nail this way, there should just be a bit coming over the top, just enough to catch the string. As I said, about a 1/16 of an inch or so. What I'm going to do now is file my nail a bit. I let it grow a little bit so that I could do a bit of filing so you could actually see what I do with my nail, and that should help you. First thing to get is a file like this, which is a diamond or sapphire file. You find it's got this sparkly surface. This is better than an emery board or something like that, or sometimes on a nail clipper there'll be a little section for filing your nails. That's quite harsh, and it sort of shreds the nail rather than cut. These files actually cut the nail, and it's much cleaner rather than using an emery board, which just sort of, as I say, sort of shreds the nail. You could probably find these at almost any drugstore, or some music stores might even carry them. So this would be the first instrument that you would use. And it's for shaping the nail, for doing the rough shaping, for shortening the nail, and then for making the proper contour. So you just put the file on the nail at a bit of an angle rather than straight on, a bit of a slant, because when you're actually attacking the note, the surface, the flat surface would be sort of in that direction rather than a totally flat surface, which would put a bit of an edge when you're actually plucking the note. So a bit of a slant on the file, and then just very gradually shape the nail. Now the shape you want to have, if you can see my nail, it's very little on this side, and then it grows, it gets longer as we go this way. Now the idea is that the string strikes the finger at this point on the flesh, goes directly to the nail, and and it goes along the nail and then is released somewhere about the middle of the nail. That's the reason for playing off this side, off the left-hand side of the nail. If you play straight on, what will happen if you have nails is that the string will touch the flesh, will go along the flesh, and then will bounce, will skip when there's that gap, and there'll be a click as the nail hits the string and then it's released. And so as you pluck each note, you'll get this clicking noise. By playing this way, you avoid that because the flesh meets the nail at that point, at that corner here. So taper the nail such that it's short here and gradually lengthens to a point about the middle of the nail. And this side just generally, you could just do almost the same sort of thing, even though since you're not using that side of the nail, it's not quite as important as this side of the nail. So just take your nail file, and you can go in both directions. Some manicurists say that you should only go in one direction, but it doesn't seem to make that much difference as far as the way the tone is affected. So taper it. You want it tapered so that there's a continuous line. What you don't want is any corners sticking out. You don't want the nail to go this direction, say, and then have a right angle and then taper it that way. What will happen that as the string is traveling along the nail, when it gets to that corner, it'll hook, and your finger will catch, and you'll find it hard to actually play the note. So you have a perfectly smooth contour with no corners, perfectly gradual edge as you go around. So again, take it down to about 1/16 of an inch. You can, again, take a look and see how the shape is and the length. Again, the nail file is a bit on an angle, about a 45-degree angle from here. It's a bit at a slant. Once you have the general shape and the proper length, then you want to get a fine sandpaper of some sort, perhaps about a 500-600 grade or even finer. That would be fine. What I use is, this is number 500. So you could cut, if you get a big sheet, cut it into little squares. This is for a finer filing now. At this point, your nail's quite harsh, quite rough. And if you played a note, you'd find it's very scratchy sounding. So take the sandpaper and just go over that entire surface. Again, you could do both sides of the nail. And that then polishes it, starts to get rid of all the little rough edges. And what you could also do perhaps is use, say, a 500, and if you could find, say, a number 900 or 1,000, something like that, you could use an even finer sandpaper for the next. What I do, though, is after I use this particular sandpaper, I then use a piece of leather. And I use that for the final buffing of the nail. And it adds the final polish. And then what to do, best way to check then, is to pick up your guitar and play a note. And not only should the tone be smooth and pleasing, but you shouldn't feel any hook or any resistance at all. The nail should just travel very smoothly so that when you initiate the stroke, it just, no obstacles along the way, released very simply. And then do that with each nail. Same thing with the second nail, again. Now, you'll find that it's very easy to scratch the nails. You might be washing dishes or anything like that, and you'll find the least little bit of scratch or roughness on the nail creates a very harsh tone. So you might find each day you might have to retouch your nails just a bit, either with the file itself or with the sandpaper, depending how rough it actually is. So check it each day and just give it a bit of a touch-up every day. Now, some people have a problem with very soft nails. they tend to wear away, so that after they play for 10 or 20 minutes, they start to get a little hole in the nail. If that's the case, you might try a bit of clear nail polish just along the edge. That should give it just hopefully a little bit of added strength so that they won't wear down quite as quickly. If you have brittle nails that tend to shatter or crack easily, you'll find you'll have to be a bit more careful. You might have to open doors with your left hand now. Things that you normally did with your right hand, you might start doing with your left hand, just because, as I say, the nails are very easily tarnished. So again, check daily to make sure the tone is, that you get a good tone with your nail, and using the methods that I've mentioned, that should do. Again, depending on the nail, you're going to have to adapt slightly. If you have a bit of a hook in the nail, again, just make sure that you have that smooth arch, so that if there is a hook, if you follow the line, you'll see that that might put a bit of a corner in, so just smooth that out. So if you haven't got nails at this point, again, you can gradually start growing them, and as soon as they get to the length that you start to hear them, or they start to catch, you'll notice that. Then start filing them at that point. You might not have enough to actually shape them properly, but just try to keep them smooth and polished so that there's no harsh edges to it. And then gradually, as they get to the proper length, you can start experimenting with that. And as I said, as we go along, I'll give you a few other tips, and in later tapes, I'll give you some hints on how to repair a broken nail and different things like that. So, if you have nails, let's go on. If you don't, that's fine too.